Imagine for a moment that the story of Adam and Eve, the one most of us have heard since childhood, isn't quite what we've been told. What if hidden within ancient texts, tucked away from mainstream teachings, lies a version of events so profound that it could change everything we think we know about human origins, spirituality, and even the very fabric of reality? In the depths of history, there exists an ancient text, one that has remained largely unknown to the Western world, the Ethiopian Bible. Unlike the standard versions found in most churches today, the Ethiopian Bible holds an expanded collection of scriptures, including books that were deliberately left out of the more widely accepted canon. These texts hold secrets that go beyond the traditional story of Adam and Eve, revealing a mystical dimension to their journey, one that speaks of divine knowledge, cosmic consciousness, and a lost understanding of who we truly are. Why does this matter? Because when we uncover the truths buried in these forgotten scriptures, we begin to see a very different picture of our origins. The story of Adam and Eve, as commonly told, has always been one of sin, exile, and the fall of humankind. But what if this narrative was reshaped to fit a particular agenda? What if the real story is not about punishment, but about awakening, about a journey that was never meant to be one of shame, but rather one of transformation? The Ethiopian texts hint at something far deeper than a simple tale of temptation and disobedience. They suggest that the Garden of Eden wasn't just a physical paradise, but a state of being, a higher dimension of existence where Adam and Eve lived in complete harmony with the divine. This perspective changes everything. Instead of seeing the so-called fall as a mistake, what if it was an initiation? What if Adam and Eve weren't being punished for eating the fruit, but were instead stepping into a greater level of awareness, one that the world wasn't yet ready to understand? These lost scriptures paint a picture of a humanity that was never meant to be bound by limitation, but rather was destined to evolve into something far greater. They speak of hidden knowledge, esoteric wisdom that is once known but has since been suppressed. And when we look at the world today, we can see why this matters more than ever. Many of us are waking up, feeling a shift in consciousness, sensing that there is more to existence than what we've been told. Could it be that we are rediscovering what was once lost? That the ancient truths whispered in these hidden texts are resurfacing at this precise moment in history for a reason? This journey into the lost story of Adam and Eve isn't just about uncovering a forgotten history. It's about reclaiming our true power, our divine nature, and our right to know who we really are. Because when we begin to see through the veils of illusion, we awaken to a reality far more magnificent than we ever imagined. And that is exactly what we're going to explore today. The Ethiopian Bible is one of the most fascinating and mysterious scriptures in existence. Unlike the Western versions of the Bible that most people are familiar with, the Ethiopian Bible is far older, more complete, and contains a wealth of knowledge that has been largely hidden from mainstream teachings. When we think of the Bible, we often assume that the one we have today is the full and unaltered word of ancient spiritual wisdom. But what if that wasn't the case? The Ethiopian Bible challenges that assumption. It holds texts that were excluded from the Western canon, books that provide deeper insights into the origins of humanity, the nature of divine beings, and the true purpose of our existence. Some scholars believe that these texts were removed or suppressed because they contained knowledge that was considered too powerful, knowledge that could have changed the course of history if widely known. One of the most striking differences between the Ethiopian Bible and the Western Bible is the number of books it contains. While the standard Western Bible includes 66 books, the Ethiopian Bible has over 80, preserving scriptures that have been lost or intentionally removed elsewhere. Among these are the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilees, two texts that provide a completely different perspective on ancient history, the cosmos, and even the very nature of God and humanity. The Book of Enoch is perhaps one of the most extraordinary texts in all of religious history. It describes a world filled with angelic beings, cosmic battles, and hidden dimensions of existence. It speaks of the Watchers, celestial beings who descended to earth and shared divine knowledge with humanity, only to be condemned for it. This idea alone is groundbreaking, because it suggests that early humans may have had contact with higher dimensional entities, beings who imparted wisdom that could elevate human consciousness. But why would such a book be excluded from mainstream teachings? Could it be that the knowledge it contains was seen as too dangerous, too liberating? The Book of Jubilees, often called the Lesser Genesis, expands on many of the stories found in the Book of Genesis, providing timelines, deeper explanations, and esoteric meanings that are absent from the traditional biblical text. It details the laws and teachings given to humanity before Moses, as well as insights into the nature of time, celestial cycles, and the spiritual blueprint of existence. In many ways, this book serves as a key to understanding the greater cosmic plan, something that religious institutions may have deemed too controversial to include in the widely accepted canon. So, why was all of this hidden? The answer may lie in the power of knowledge itself. Throughout history, religious and political institutions have often controlled access to spiritual wisdom, shaping narratives that serve their interests. If people had access to texts that spoke of divine knowledge, cosmic consciousness, and the true nature of reality, it could have undermined the structures of power that relied on keeping humanity in spiritual limitation. Knowledge, after all, is power, and sacred knowledge, the kind that reveals our divine origins and potential, has always been the most suppressed of all. The Ethiopian Bible stands as a living testament to what was lost, or perhaps intentionally taken, from mainstream teachings. It challenges us to ask deeper questions, to seek beyond the official story, and to reconnect with the wisdom that was meant for all of humanity, not just a select few. What other secrets might these ancient texts hold, and how might they change the way we see ourselves and the world around us? As we continue this journey, we'll uncover more of these hidden truths and their profound implications for our spiritual awakening. The story of Adam and Eve, as told in most traditions, has been simplified into a narrative of temptation, disobedience, and exile. But when we look at the hidden scriptures, particularly those preserved in the Ethiopian Bible, we begin to uncover a version of this story that is far more complex, mystical, and deeply transformative. This isn't just about the first humans committing a sin. It's about a shift in consciousness, a leap from one state of existence to another. And perhaps it's a story about what it truly means to awaken. The first question we must ask is, who were Adam and Eve, really? Were they simply the first humans in a linear, historical sense? Or were they something more? Some ancient texts suggest that Adam and Eve were not originally confined to the dense physical form that we recognize today. Instead, they were luminous, multidimensional beings, existing in a state of pure energy, deeply connected to the divine. In this perspective, the Garden of Eden wasn't just a physical paradise on earth, but a higher dimensional reality, a realm of pure consciousness, where these beings coexisted with the divine in perfect harmony. In many esoteric traditions, Eden represents more than just a location. It is a state of being, a reality where humanity was fully aware of its divine nature, existing beyond the limitations of time, space, and physical constraints. In this realm, Adam and Eve weren't limited by the struggles of the material world. They were deeply in tune with creation itself, coexisting with celestial beings and operating at a frequency of light and pure knowledge. But something changed, and this change was triggered by what we now call the forbidden fruit. What was this fruit, really? If Eden was a higher dimensional realm, then the tree of knowledge was no ordinary tree. Many ancient traditions suggest that this wasn't about eating a literal piece of fruit, but rather an act of transformation, a shift in consciousness. The fruit was symbolic of something far greater, divine knowledge, expanded awareness, or perhaps even a genetic alteration that changed the very nature of human existence. Some interpretations go even deeper, suggesting that this moment in the story represents a kind of DNA activation or modification. Could it be that the so-called fall of humanity was actually a shift from a higher vibrational existence into a denser, more material reality? Some researchers and spiritual seekers have even speculated that the tree of knowledge represents an ancient form of genetic manipulation, a moment in which human DNA was altered, leading to the limitations of physical existence that we experience today. If true, this would mean that Adam and Eve didn't simply fall in a moral sense. They descended into a lower frequency of existence, bound by the constraints of the physical world. But here's where the story takes an even more fascinating turn. Traditionally, the serpent in the Garden of Eden has been viewed as the ultimate deceiver, tempting humanity into sin. But in some ancient traditions, the serpent is not an enemy but a bringer of knowledge. In many spiritual traditions, the serpent is a sacred symbol of wisdom, transformation, and even kundalini energy, the life force that, when awakened, leads to higher states of consciousness. Could it be that the temptation in the garden wasn't a curse, but an invitation to something greater? Could the knowledge Adam and Eve received have been the key to unlocking their true potential, one that was hidden from them before? If this is true, then the so-called fall wasn't a punishment. It was an awakening, a transition from one form of existence to another. And what if that moment in the garden wasn't the end of the story, but just the beginning? What if the entire journey of humanity since then has been about rediscovering what was lost, reclaiming that divine knowledge, and stepping back into the awareness that was once so natural to us? Perhaps Adam and Eve weren't cast out of paradise because they were sinners. Perhaps they chose to descend into this reality in order to experience the full spectrum of existence, so that one day, through our own journey of awakening, we could find our way back. And maybe, just maybe, that time has come. When we look deeper into the story of Adam and Eve through the lens of ancient texts, particularly those found in the Ethiopian Bible, we begin to notice something intriguing. The story of humanity's origins doesn't stand alone. It echoes across multiple ancient civilizations, from Sumer to Egypt, carrying hidden clues about celestial beings who played a direct role in shaping the destiny of mankind. And when we examine these connections, a whole new perspective begins to emerge, one that challenges everything we've been taught about creation, the so-called fall, and the true nature of divine beings. One of the most fascinating links comes from the Sumerian texts, some of the oldest known writings on Earth. These tablets, dating back thousands of years, speak of powerful celestial beings known as the Anunnaki, a term that means those who from heaven to earth came. According to Sumerian mythology, these beings descended from the stars and played a direct role in shaping early humanity. But the most striking detail, the story of the Anunnaki shares remarkable similarities with the story of Adam and Eve. In the Sumerian accounts, two key figures stand out: Enki and Enlil, brothers, both Anunnaki, with vastly different views on humanity. Enlil is often portrayed as a strict, authoritarian ruler who saw humans as mere servants, while Enki, on the other hand, is depicted as a benefactor, one who wished to elevate humanity by granting them divine knowledge. This tension between Enki and Enlil mirrors the biblical story in a profound way. What if the so-called God, who forbade Adam and Eve from eating the fruit, was actually Enlil, the overseer who wanted to keep humanity in ignorance? And what if the serpent, who encouraged them to seek knowledge, was actually Enki, the one who believed humans had the right to awaken to their full potential? This changes everything. It means that the serpent, the entity that has been demonized for centuries, may not have been a deceiver at all, but rather a guide, a liberator, a bringer of wisdom. In many cultures, the serpent is not a symbol of evil, but of transformation. In Hinduism, the coiled serpent represents Kundalini energy, the divine force that, when awakened, leads to spiritual enlightenment. In ancient Egyptian traditions, the cobra symbolized protection and higher consciousness. Could it be that the serpent in Eden was never meant to be feared, but rather understood? If we follow this thread, we begin to see that the story of Adam and Eve isn't just a biblical tale. It's a repeated pattern found in multiple ancient civilizations. The Egyptian creation myths, for example, speak of divine beings descending from the stars, bringing wisdom to early humanity. The Mayan and Aztec legends tell of serpent gods like Quetzalcoatl, who imparted sacred knowledge before being banished or hidden from history. The parallels are undeniable. And then there's the question of genetic manipulation. Many alternative researchers have speculated that the creation of Adam and Eve wasn't a spontaneous event, but rather a deliberate act of engineering. The Sumerian tablets describe the Anunnaki as having experimented with early humans, refining them over time until they became the beings we recognize today. The Ethiopian texts, too, suggest that Adam and Eve's form changed after eating the fruit, hinting at a transformation that was more than just symbolic. Could this forbidden knowledge actually refer to an awakening of dormant genetic codes, an activation of something that was previously locked away? If we entertain this possibility, then the entire narrative shifts. Adam and Eve were not simply the first humans. They were part of a much larger story, one involving celestial intervention, hidden knowledge, and a battle over humanity's spiritual evolution. And that battle may not have ended in Eden. In fact, it may still be unfolding today. Because if the Anunnaki or beings like them, played a role in shaping our early development, then the question becomes, what happens when humanity fully awakens? What happens when we reclaim the knowledge that was once hidden, the power that was once denied? Maybe that is what this entire journey has been about. Maybe the fall wasn't a punishment, but an invitation to rise. As we piece together the hidden story of Adam and Eve, the Anunnaki connection, and the deeper esoteric meanings within the Ethiopian Bible, a crucial question arises. Why was this knowledge suppressed? If these ancient scriptures held such profound insights about human origins, divine consciousness, and spiritual evolution, who decided that we shouldn't know, and why? To understand this, we must look at the forces that have shaped religious teachings over the centuries, particularly the Roman Empire and the Council of Nicaea. This is where history takes a sharp turn, and the truth of our spiritual heritage was deliberately rewritten, censored, or erased entirely. Before the rise of the Roman Catholic Church, early Christianity was vastly different from the structured religion we know today. It was deeply mystical, diverse, and included teachings that encouraged direct personal experiences with the divine. But as Christianity spread, so did the concern over who controlled its message. Enter the Roman Empire, a powerful force that saw the growing Christian movement not just as a faith, but as a tool for control. In 325 AD, Emperor Constantine convened the Council of Nicaea, a gathering of bishops that would forever change the course of religious history. This council didn't just discuss theology. It decided which books would be included in the official Bible and which would be cast aside as heresy. The Ethiopian Bible, with its expanded collection of scriptures, never conformed to these edits, which is why it preserved texts that Western Christianity discarded. But why remove these teachings? The answer lies in power and control. Many of the omitted texts, including the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, and other apocryphal writings, contained knowledge that could have liberated humanity from religious dependency. These books spoke of celestial beings, higher states of consciousness, and the ability for humans to directly access divine wisdom. If people had access to such truths, they wouldn't need an intermediary. They wouldn't need a church to tell them how to connect with God. And that was a threat to the emerging religious and political establishment. The suppression didn't stop there. Over the centuries, the Vatican and other religious institutions continued to silence alternative teachings, often labeling them heretical, dangerous, or even demonic. The Gnostic texts, which spoke of inner enlightenment and the idea that the divine spark is within each of us, were banned and destroyed. Esoteric traditions that taught spiritual empowerment were either erased from history or distorted beyond recognition. The message was clear. Spiritual knowledge was to be controlled, and only the chosen few could dictate what was true. Yet despite all efforts to suppress these teachings, there was one place that refused to conform: Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Church, one of the oldest Christian traditions in the world, never removed these lost books. They continued to preserve the full breadth of scriptures, maintaining a connection to the original teachings that were stripped away elsewhere. Unlike the Western world, where biblical texts were altered, edited, and rewritten over time, Ethiopia held on to these sacred writings, unchanged for thousands of years. This is why the Ethiopian Bible is so important. It represents an unbroken link to the knowledge that was hidden from the rest of the world. Now we must ask ourselves, if these texts were preserved, and if this wisdom is still accessible, what does that mean for us today? Perhaps we are living in a time when these lost teachings are meant to resurface, when the veils that were placed over human consciousness are finally lifting. Maybe the very fact that we are rediscovering these truths now, truths that were kept from us for so long, is a sign that humanity is entering a new era of spiritual awakening. The suppression of sacred knowledge was never about protecting people. It was about keeping them in the dark. But now, the light is returning, and as we continue this journey, we will see just how deep this rabbit hole goes. Because the story of Adam and Eve, the Anunnaki, and the lost teachings of the Ethiopian Bible is just the beginning. There is so much more to uncover. As we uncover the lost truths of Adam and Eve, the suppressed wisdom of the Ethiopian Bible, and the deeper layers of our ancient history, one question stands above all others. What does this mean for us today? Because if this knowledge is resurfacing now, in this precise moment, then it's not just about history, it's about something much bigger. It's about us. It's about our spiritual awakening. It's about remembering who we truly are. For centuries, humanity has been conditioned to see itself as fallen, broken, and unworthy. The traditional story of Adam and Eve has been used to reinforce this idea that we are born into sin, that we were cast out of paradise, that we lost our divine connection, and must now seek redemption. But what if this was never the true message? What if the fall wasn't about punishment, but about transformation? What if Adam and Eve weren't cast out because they were disobedient, but because they had evolved beyond the boundaries of their original existence? This changes everything. Because if the story of Adam and Eve is not about exile, but about expansion, then our entire self-perception shifts. Instead of seeing ourselves as flawed beings struggling to return to grace, we can begin to recognize that we have always been divine. We simply forgot. And now, we are waking up. Understanding this story in a new way activates something profound within us. It challenges the belief that we are separate from the divine, reminding us that the sacred knowledge Adam and Eve accessed is still within us, waiting to be reclaimed. It invites us to look at our own consciousness, our own energy, and ask, what else have we forgotten? Could it be that we still carry the codes of Eden within us? That what we call awakening today is simply the process of remembering? Many ancient traditions speak of a time when humanity would rise again, when the hidden truths would be revealed, when the veils would lift, and when we would rediscover our lost potential. And as more people around the world begin to question old narratives, to seek deeper knowledge, to feel the stirrings of something greater within them, it becomes clear that this time is now. The knowledge that was hidden, the texts that were removed, the wisdom that was suppressed, it is all coming back. And with it comes the opportunity to step into our true nature, to reclaim our birthright, to understand that we were never meant to be small, powerless, or lost. We were always meant to awaken. So what does this mean for us today? It means that the story of Adam and Eve isn't just about the past. It's about the present. It's about you. It's about the choices we make every day, whether to remain in the illusion of limitation or to step into the higher truth of who we really are. The fruit of knowledge was never about sin. It was about awakening to something greater. And now the question is, are we ready to take that step? As we come to the end of this journey, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've uncovered. The story of Adam and Eve is not what we were told. It's not just about disobedience, exile, or sin. It's about transformation, awakening, and the power of hidden knowledge. The Ethiopian Bible, one of the most ancient and complete scriptures in existence, preserves sacred texts that were deliberately removed from mainstream religion. And within these lost teachings, we find a radically different understanding of who we are, where we come from, and what we are capable of becoming. We've explored how Adam and Eve may have been multidimensional beings, existing in a higher vibrational state before their so-called fall. We've re-examined the Garden of Eden, not as a physical place, but as a realm of divine consciousness. We've questioned the meaning of the forbidden fruit. Was it a metaphor for DNA activation, an expansion of consciousness, or a genetic modification? And we've traced the connections between this story and other ancient texts, from the Sumerian accounts of Enki and Enlil to the serpent as a symbol of enlightenment across cultures. But perhaps the biggest revelation of all is this: the suppression of these teachings was never about protecting humanity. It was about keeping us in the dark. The Council of Nicaea and religious institutions over the centuries have carefully shaped the narrative we've been given, omitting texts that spoke of higher knowledge, cosmic origins, and direct divine connection. And yet, despite every effort to erase them, these teachings have survived. They have been preserved in places like Ethiopia, waiting for the right time to be rediscovered. And now, that time is here. This knowledge isn't just ancient history. It's a key to our spiritual awakening today. When we begin to see ourselves not as fallen beings, but as powerful souls on a journey of remembrance, everything changes. The real question now is, what will you do with this information? If this video resonated with you, if you feel the call to uncover more lost knowledge, then I encourage you to start researching for yourself. Look into the Ethiopian Bible, read the Book of Enoch, explore the ancient Sumerian texts, follow the threads of history that were hidden from us. Because the more you seek, the more you will remember. And if you want to continue this journey together, make sure to subscribe to this channel, comment below with your thoughts, and share this video with others who are ready to wake up. The more we spread this knowledge, the more we reclaim what was lost. This is just the beginning. There is so much more to reveal. Are you ready?